Hello everybody and welcome to today's video in which we explore Am I Too Stupid to Read a Classic? So basically what has inspired this book is I have been reading a lot of trashy books lately, and I've read a lot of really good books and thought-provoking books, but I've also read just a lot of smutty romance, and I wanted to get back to basics and see, am I capable of reading classic literature? And now I know the answer is yes, because I was a journalism major. I loved English. Like, I got 5s on my AP English test. But have I gotten dumber in college? I read The Great Gatsby for class. I read Huckleberry Finn. I read The Odyssey. Read Invisible Man, which is crazy. We took a paragraph from Invisible Man and had to write a 20-page paper analyzing it. So yes, I know how to read classics, and I know how to read really tough literature and decipher it, and I think that literature is fascinating. But how would it be if I read it for fun? I have never read a classic or picked one up just for fun. I have started to read Pride and Prejudice, and I got bored, and Little Women just intimidates me because it's really big. I think I did read Sense and Sensibility, but I have no recollection of it because I probably couldn't understand it. So in today's video, we're going to be reading The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, and I found this in my library. Literally look at how cute this book is. It's pretty short. It's about 250 pages. The writing is super small. Oh my god. And this is not a book that I would normally pick up, but I really want to challenge myself this year, and I want to get smarter. Not to say that reading like smutty romances and reading whatever genre that you like to read is bad. I don't think anything is bad, especially in terms of reading. I think it's really good for you no matter what you choose to consume. But I really want to challenge myself in consuming things that are classics. I think that reading language like this is so important. It's so important to learning, and all of the best books and the best literature was inspired from classics, and there's a reason why they're classics. So I did think about reading multiple books for this video, but guys, it's probably gonna take me a long time to get through this book, and I really want to read it and understand it. I don't know anything about The Picture of Dorian Gray, and I don't know if I should read like a SparkNotes summary of it first before I start to read it. I feel like I should, but also it feels like cheating, because what I would do a lot of times in high school is read a chapter and not get anything from it. So then I would read the SparkNotes, and then I would go back and read the chapter and feel like I understood it. But I don't know if it's because I actually understood it or because I was just thinking of the SparkNotes summary. So I might go ahead and try to read it without SparkNotes first. But yeah, I'm gonna start reading this bright and early tomorrow because I need a full night's rest before I start this classic. Classics are so intimidating to me. It's just something about the language that has always intimidated me, but I think that we can learn so much. Like, I will never forget reading The Invisible Man. Like, never forget that. I'll also never forget reading The Odyssey. Follow me along if you're interested in seeing if I'm too stupid to read a classic. I've already run into an issue reading this book. Oh my god, I can't even hold it up properly. But I go to start this book and there's a bunch of pages of introduction, and I'm not sure if I should read it because it says new readers are advised that this introduction make the detail of the plot explicit. And I kind of want to go in not knowing anything, but I'm like kind of swiping through the introduction and I see a bunch of like themes and stuff of the story, so I think I'm gonna skip it. I think I'm gonna skip the introduction and go back and read it, and I do see the intro page a couple of pages in, and I think I'm gonna start with this. Yeah, I'm gonna start with the preface, I think. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm like so excited to start this classic, which I think is important because I was never excited to read classics as a kid, and in school I always thought it was something that was not fun, so I am excited to start it. I'm loving reading this so far. it's really honestly bringing me back to my high school days and just reminding me why I love literature so much and why I love language. So I'm just gonna read you this little part. When I like people immensely, I never tell their name to anyone. It is like surrendering a part of them. I have grown to love secrecy. It seems to be the one thing that can make modern life mysterious or marvelous to us. The commonest thing is delightful if only one hides it. I just love it. I just love the conversations. I love how people are talking in this. I love the language. So I'm very, very like early on into the book, but I wanted to share that with you. So far the language is beautiful. I'm halfway through this book and I have to say I have so many thoughts. First of all, I got to the halfway point and I had to stop myself to remind myself to update you guys because this book is so short. It's around 250 pages and I have been eating this up. First of all, I don't know where the notion came from that classics are hard to read. It's gonna be a difficult read. I don't know if it's just because of the types of classics, the types of books that we read in school, or if it's the way that we approached it, or if I've genuinely just gotten exposed to more language, to more media that made me really love this book instead of dread reading it. The vocabulary and the diction is so flowery and just so beautiful, and normally it would annoy me that we get so much imagery. I just want to get to the point, but I just love it. There's something so romantic about reading a book that was published in the 1800s and reading it now, and it just, the meanings and the symbolism just are so staggeringly accurate to this day. And I mean, I'm only halfway through, but just like some of the things that Dorian is doing, some of the language that Dorian is using and the people surrounding Dorian, it's just so like relevant to today. And it's just crazy how someone like Oscar Wilde is writing about something that he feels like is pertinent to society in the 1800s, and yet 200 years later it's still so accurate in today's society. I don't know if that's the human condition. I don't know if we should have been so much further along as a society, but regardless of what it is, it's just like haunting. It's so beautiful. It's hauntingly beautiful. So I'm not gonna give like blatant spoilers, but also it's a classic, so like I'm not gonna like shy away from saying things that happen in the book. But I do have a couple of quotes and a couple of things that I want to talk through. So the first thing is the misogyny that I'm seeing in this book. It's just very interesting to me. I'm not gonna make myself angry. That's just something that's in the book and I want to examine that and talk about it. I almost feel like if we read this in a high school class or in a class in general, it just would have been so good because there's just so much meat and stuff to dive into. And I haven't looked at any spark notes or anything, so I could be completely wrong, but I'm going to save that until the very end of the book, until after I finished it. There's this section in the book where they're talking about marrying people and women, and this is a quote I want to share with you. It says, "Being adored is a nuisance. Women treat us just as humanity treats its gods. They worship us and are always bothering us to do something for them." That is just so interesting. The way that the two men are talking to Dorian and just kind of shattering his expectations and his view, his very naive view of the world, and just the way that they're talking about women is just so interesting to me. A huge theme of this book, I can already tell from like the first page, is vanity and beauty and the concept of vanity and beauty and what that means. And it's just so like staggeringly obvious, and so that's why I'm saying, like, when I read classics and stuff in high school, like, have I really grown so much as a reader, or was I just like not paying attention and felt like I needed the spark notes? But like the themes in this book are so evident, and it's the way that they're talked about is beautiful. So Dorian falls in love with this girl and she's beautiful and amazing and she's an actor, but when she falls in love with Dorian, she stops being a good actor, and she said that it's just because she loved Dorian so much and she can't think about anything. She can't think about being a good actor because all she thinks about is how much she loved Dorian, and that kills his love for her. He loved her for her intellect and her talent and the way that she would approach life, and now all of a sudden that she is being overtaken by her love for him, that she doesn't have that anymore. His love for her is completely tarnished. And this is what he says to her. "You have killed my love. You used to stir my imagination. Now you don't even stir my curiosity. You simply produce no effect. I loved you because you were marvelous, because you had genius and intellect, because you realized the dreams of great poets and gave shape and substance to the shadows of art. You have thrown it all away. You are shallow and stupid. My God, how mad I was to love you. What a fool I have been. You are nothing to me now. I will never see you again. I will never think of you. I will never mention your name. You don't know what you were to me once. I can't bear to think of it. I wish I had never laid eyes upon you. You have spoiled the romance of my life. How little you know of love if you say it mars your art. Without your art, you are nothing. I would have made you famous, splendid, magnificent. The world would have worshipped you and you would have borne my name. What are you now? A third-rate actress with a pretty face." It's so good. Like, I wish we read this again because it's just so good, and I could write a whole essay about the meaning of love and why we love who we love and what really makes us love them. And I think that this book is doing a great job of examining themes, and I'm just eating it up so far. And then another thing in this book is Dorian has this portrait painted of him, and it's a beautiful portrait, but Dorian feels like as he goes throughout the world and he sins, he feels like the portrait is like changing and having a life of its own, determining on how good of a person Dorian is. And I think that is really interesting too. It also brings about the theme of beauty, the eye of the beholder, and all of this stuff. So I could be completely off the mark here actually, because I have done no research into this book, but that's what I'm getting from it, and I am eating it up. Another quote that I wanted to read to you guys. He said that his guardians were extremely old-fashioned people and did not realize that we live in an age when unnecessary things are our only necessities. I just love it. I just love the writing style. Just love it. I love it. So yeah, I'm eating this book up. I'm gonna read more, and I'm just loving it so far. I think it's so interesting how Dorian really is giving main character energy. Like, he sees himself as the main character, and it's so evident, and I just love it so far. So I'm gonna go ahead and read some more. I'm probably gonna take a break because it really requires a lot of brain power, and I think that's also a thing. Maybe I just wasn't willing to give the brain power when I was younger, but maybe this is just an amazing classic. I just found something that I really like. So I honestly don't know where we're going in the story. I'm just kind of reading it and enjoying it. It is a little while later, and I wanted to update you guys that I finished The Picture of Dorian Gray. I also want to say that I have not been sitting in this place for that long. Like, I have taken breaks, I've read upstairs and stuff. I just have a lot of footage, or most of my footage is from this one place. But I am just kind of at a loss for words when I think about this book, because I have just been thinking about it. I finished it a little while ago, probably around 40 minutes ago, and I've been trying to compile my thoughts to wrap up this video. First of all, am I too stupid to read a classic? No, or at least this classic. At least I think that The Picture of Dorian Gray is a very beginner friendly book. I don't think that a lot of people are going to have a super hard time reading this if they have the attention span to keep up with it. It's not like the easiest book to digest, but it's not also super hard. It's not like Shakespeare, and I definitely did not need spark notes or anything to really get in my head what this book is about. And also, I think the story was so good. Like, I was thoroughly entertained the entire time, and I do think, like, maybe the fact that it's only around 200 pages has something to do with it, but the quotes in this book, oh my goodness gracious guys, it was so beautiful. Let me read one to you. The next day he did not leave the house, and indeed spent most of the time in his own room, sick with a wild terror of dying, and yet indifferent to life itself. Now that quote itself is not like super flowery or great, but it's just like the imagery that you're so terrified of dying that you don't get to live properly, or it influences the way that you live your life because you're just so afraid of it. It's crazy to me. And again, like what I was talking about earlier, halfway through the book, it's so relevant to today even though it was written so long ago. And then the last quote that I have to read, it really like gets me. It was his beauty that had ruined him, his beauty and the youth that he had prayed for. But for those two things his life might have been free from stain. His beauty had been to him but a mask, his youth but a mockery. What was youth at best? A green and unripe time, a time of shallow moods and sickly thoughts. Why had he worn its livery? Youth had spoiled him. I just think that the moral of this story is so good and so important and so thought-provoking, and now it's making me want to read more classics. This is not the language that I prefer when I'm reading a book. I usually want to read something that'll entertain me or something that's so good and that will make me cry, but this classic writing is not something that I usually gravitate towards because it does require a little bit more brain power, a little bit more thought. It takes a little bit more time. Like, this took me a lot longer to read than an average book that would be this length. It took me about double the time to read. I listened to the audiobook. The audiobook is free on Spotify and it's actually really good. I recommend it. And they do the accents and stuff. But it definitely took me a lot more brain power than normal, but it was so worth it. I almost don't want to read this book just because it is a classic and I don't feel like I should rate it, but it's definitely not below a 4 stars. I'll say that. I wouldn't say it's a 5 stars just because it wasn't like super easy to read. Like, I had to think about what I was reading and it took my time, so I wouldn't say it's a 5 stars, but it's definitely not below a 4 stars. It's a very good book. Highly recommend it. Let me know if you want me to do more books with reading things that are out of my comfort zone, reading classics, because I almost want to give myself more of a challenge. I feel like this wasn't challenging enough as classics go, but also I don't know, because it's been a while since I've attempted it, and again, like, I want to write essays about this book. That's how many thoughts it has provoked in my head. I could write an essay probably double the length of this book about it because I just can't stop thinking about it, and I know that I'm going to think about it for a long time to come. I'm honestly probably going to go ahead and purchase this book because this is not mine. This is in the library. But yeah, let me know if you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. I did think that this video was going to be a little bit different because I did think it was going to be a lot challenging than it was. But the moral of the story is that you should step out of your comfort zone and try something that you are not super familiar or comfortable with, because I think I found a new favorite and I'm going to continue to challenge myself. Alrighty guys, I love you so much and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!